Hey everyone, this is basketball loving Dr. MBA. Today's story is quite interesting. Man is by nature a social animal, in making relationships with one another, and in that process, making the relationships smoothly. We all have different moral cultures for different situations. So that's the reason why education exists, and students worldwide in school learn information through education. And for America, this country believes sports and education are equally important, and no matter how elite an athlete is, if their grades don't fit the requirements, they're not allowed to play in games. And for students, even if they put in all their time for sports, they may not make it, and with that tired body, they have to study as well. But already playing as a pro player who doesn't need to study anymore, there's one NBA player that went to university to get a few extra credits. And that would be a player that gets close to an average of $42.5 million without even playing. John Wall. His salary in the 1920 season was the fourth highest in the NBA, and he was in a situation where he had to prove his worth. But different from what was expected, John Wall suddenly had a devotion to study, and said that he would go back and graduate university. Because so, the fans had criticized him. What could possibly be the reason for a top-class athlete to go back to school? We will talk about the inside story of him in this video. In 1990, in Raleigh, North Carolina, US, John Wall was born, and he was a very pure kid who loved his father dearly. But unfortunately, his father was actually a criminal. With only a year after his son was born, he was caught and sent to jail because of robbing a convenience store armed. And plus that, he already had a history of robbery when he was younger, and he was also charged with manslaughter in the past. So he was already in the police records. But John Wall had no clue of any of these facts, so every week he went to visit his dad in jail, and he was always excited to see him. And even though it was only a short time he could see him, he was happy with the fact he could see him at all. And his father, seeing his son, would regret the sins he has done, and decided to live a life on the right path. But, as if karma had existed, in 1998 he had gotten liver cancer, and it was a matter of time before he would pass away. And a year later, after he got released, he went on his last vacation trip with his family, and passed away soon after. John Wall was 9 years old at the time, and after losing his beloved father, that emptiness was soon filled with darkness, and he started to rebel. His home was not so wealthy, so in order to get out, he picked basketball and the NBA as his dream. And in high school, he would be talented enough to be the key player for the team, but he didn't listen to the coach and got in a lot of fights with his classmates and a lot of other things. And because so, he was kicked out of school twice. And his mother, seeing this, told him, "Please, don't live a life like your father's," and begged him. Having to raise 8 children on her own, and in order to feed them and raise them, had to work 3 different jobs. It's unimaginable how tragic she must have felt. But just then, a person who would fix John Wall's attitude had showed up. And that would be the head coach for John Wall's 3rd high school basketball team. In order for John Wall to have basic knowledge, he helped him with his education a lot. And with these coaching methods, John Wall was reborn as a respectful sportsmanship player who did not rebel anymore, and his skill had also gotten better, and went around taking over the high school basketball scene. And because he copied his role model when he was young, NBA legend Allen Iverson, John Wall's speed and dribbling were unbelievably fast and shifty, and his point getting and assists were in the top class in the nation. So he attended many camps where only the top prospects could attend, and got the MVP titles in them. And in his graduating year in the high school league, he had an average of 19.7 points and 9 assists, and won the championship in North Carolina. And because of these performances, many sports medias had praised him, and he was ranked 1st in the nation. John Wall went to a very prestigious basketball university, Kentucky University. And after, in the university stage, He showed explosive point-getting abilities, and he showed his skill there too. He didn't just lead the team to 19 wins in a row, but in the playoff tournament with 12 teams, had won the championship and the MVP, and also won the Rookie of the Year award and the Player of the Year award as well, and in the NCAA tournament, had made it to the top 8 showing great accomplishments. And getting all the honor and respect, John Wall after his first year in university went straight to the 2010 NBA draft. And from there, out of 60 players, he went first overall to the Washington Wizards. And his poor home that suffered for a long time was no longer a problem for him. He did escape the poor life, but with a rookie contract, he couldn't be too sure yet. In order to negotiate on raising his salary when resigning 3-4 years later, he had to show outstanding performances while playing against the NBA beasts that were out there. And so, he desperately jumped into the games as a point guard. John Wall, even though it was his first year, out of all the players, had the 6th highest average assists in the league. And just like his amazing passing skills, he was also confident getting points as well. And out of all the players in the draft he was a part of, he had the highest average points, and the Rookie of the Month. That only picks one player. He was picked 4 times in a row, accomplishing great things. And so, John Wall, who did great in his first part of his career, was soon heading into the election for the Rookie of the Year award, something that could only be achieved once in a lifetime. But that honor had gone to Blake Griffin, who played a year late and was known as the best rookie of the 21st century, and John Wall had lost the election to him. And now heading into his second year, and the fans' expectations were high for John Wall's further growth, but his gameplay was not very good at all actually. Being the point guard and key player for the team, he had most control over the ball, but ever since he was a rookie, he was criticized for turnovers, and he was still making way too many. And his dribbling skills, that were well recognized in high school, did not work in the NBA stage, because he could only go straight, which made him unable to make successful drives. And so, because his ball handling was not flexible, when starting the offense from half court, John Wall's speed was slower than expected. He was actually only quick and effective when on transitions, and in normal offensive situations, he showed frustrating performances. And even if he somehow did make it to the rim while driving, his patience and preciseness was very weak, so he would miss an open layup or fail on jump shots while dribbling. And maybe because his confidence had dropped, he barely made any attempted 3-point shots, and only had a 7% shot success rate. And plus that, all his teammates' plays were self-centered and naive, so the teamwork between them was AFK. But fortunately, in the end of the season, the team went into rebuild, with John Wall at the center, and the fans expected to see better results. But before starting his 3rd year, John Wall had suddenly injured his knee, and from the opening game for the Washington Wizards, had 5 wins and 28 losses, leaving them in complete darkness. But just then, a recovered John Wall had returned, and he started to show a huge change. While in rehab, he practiced shooting off one foot and polished up on his ball handling, so his various dribbling skills on changing directions had gotten much better, smoother, and natural than before. And at the same time, his speed that used to be mocked by defenders had become faster. And the most surprising thing was, his inconsistent jump shots that were not confident had changed, and he was overflowing with confidence now. A lot of fans seeing this change John Wall were overflowingly joyful, and in the rest of the remaining games, he led the team to have close to a 50% win rate. And after the season ended, the team had put all their trust in John Wall and signed a close to maximum size contract of a deal with him. On this day, he thought of his mother, who went through all the hard times raising 8 children on her own, and shed tears because so, and he was quietly happy with the fact she could live the rest of her life in comfort. And after this day, he participated in a lot of donations to help the poor people who lived hard lives and help the community, and in the process, a young lymphoma patient he had funded had passed away, so he did have a sad memory while helping people. but the sincere good deed John Wall had done had moved a lot of the fans worldwide. After resigning with the team, John Wall's skill had upgraded to another level. In his 4th year in the 13-14 season, he was picked for the first time to the All-Stars, and at the same time in the slam dunk contest, he had become the dunk champion. Plus that, the Washington Wizards, who had been in the lower rankings for the last 5 years, had suddenly become 5th in the Eastern Conference and was now known as a strong team. And moving forward, in his 6th year in the 15-16 season, he would control the play of the team and make precise passes like a point guard should. And his average assists went back and forth from 2nd to 3rd place, showing great performances. And even though his shooting was known to be inconsistent and was eliminated in the playoffs every time because so, in his 7th year in the 16-17 season, his skill was now polished completely. His quick speed and his well-turning dribbling skills, driving, and the finish was now good. And he even showed steady performances when it came to mid-range and 3-point shots, especially the way he used screens to make plays, and the passes he made after driving through showed how their team play had gotten much better than in the past. And John Wall didn't just shine on offense, but also on defense. He was ranked 1st in steals, showing his focus and his positioning to be on point. And his height was taller than average, and was very athletic, so he would block the opponent's shots, showing great performances from both sides of the court. And so, he had an average of 23.1 points, and ranking 2nd in assists, had 10.7 of them, and made his way to the playoffs again, easily going past the 1st round and heading into the 2nd round, against the Boston Celtics, who were 1st in the Eastern Conference. The 2 first games were away, so the pressure was on, but John Wall didn't budge at all. And in the first game, put up 16 assists, and in the next game, put up 13 assists and 40 points, showing performances of a superstar, tearing down the Boston's defense. But the result of the 2 games were Washington, by a 12-point and 10-point deficit, had lost. And in the middle of that, with 33 points in the first game, and 20 more than in the second with 53 points, destroying the Washington Wizards' defense, was 5'9" Isaiah Thomas. And at the time, he had even gotten in a collision and broke his front teeth, but that only drove him more and made him explode with points. Being helpless, getting fouled out with 6 fouls and losing their cool, and losing both games, the Washington Wizard players had pulled themselves together and had the mindset to turn it around in the 3rd game, and focused on defense. With great pressure making Boston miss shots, they would use fast transitions, leaving the Boston players shook. Especially in the 3rd quarter of the 4th game, when Washington put up 26 points while Boston could not do anything and put up 0 points. And Washington successfully turned it around, getting 2 straight wins. But they lost the 5th game, losing the balance. But John Wall in the 6th game, with making a 3-point shot at the end, and won the game. So both teams had to settle in the final 7th round. But maybe because the Wizards used all their energy in the comeback victory in the 6th. In the 7th game, John Wall could not beat Boston's focused guarding. As a result, he had a 34% field goal rate, with only 12% in 3-point shots, losing the game by a 10-point deficit. But after the season ended, John Wall had gotten solid trust and expectations from Washington. So, Wall signed a 4-year, $170 million contract extension with the Wizards. John Wall, now having the mindset of getting the MVP no matter what, the Wizards had watched John Wall from afar with smiles, but they had no idea about the nightmare they would have to face in the future. With the mindset of being the best player, John Wall had entered the 17-18 season. But his performance was not getting any better at all. In fact, as time went by, he became more inconsistent. And to make it even worse, in the middle of the season, he missed close to 2 months because of a knee injury, and Washington was left in a tough situation. But the teamwork within the team was actually getting better with John Wall out of the roster, and John, seeing this, was left feeling terrible. The team was actually based around John Wall on offense, so the other teammates' abilities were not well shown, and they had lesser positions, so the synergy within the team at the time was not so great. And there was also a rumor that he wasn't in good terms with his teammates, so John Wall had become even smaller, and after recovering and heading straight to the playoffs, they could not pass the first round and got eliminated. And even though he was the leader of the team, he started to show discomfort about the team's roster. In this competitive world of sports, pride is of course needed, but a result just as big is needed as well. So John Wall, with the goal of getting the MVP, headed into the 18-19 season. But with another serious injury, this time his elbow, he had to get surgery and could not play the rest of the games. And to make it even worse, he had gotten the most dangerous injury for an athlete, an Achilles tendon rupture, and he could no longer be expected to play as the key player. And even though his value had dropped to the lowest, he had already signed a huge contract, so it was impossible for the team to get rid of him. And now the team, figuring that out, could only sit and regret the decision of signing him. And John Wall had no idea when he could recover and return. But instead of drowning in depression, he did something that had to be done in his life. And that was to graduate university. And the reason was to follow his father's last will. Spending most of his life in jail, his father had looked back on his life and regretted much of it. And thinking of that, before he had passed away, he had asked his son for one last favor. Always try to become a better person, and study hard, and go to university as well, was what he had said to him. And even though he was a criminal, and John Wall did not know this as a child, to John, he is still his one and only father. And because so, to keep this promise, he went back to Kentucky University to finish his classes. And of course, a lot of fans had said that it was a take and run, but for him, it was a hard decision to make at the time. And plus that, because of his mother's health, he always had a part of him that was uncomfortable. His mother, because of what she had gone through, has had pneumonia for a long time, and it was so serious that she couldn't even go watch her son's games. And on December 13th, 2019, the mother who raised John Wall on her own after battling cancer had passed away. My mother had to fill in 2 roles because my father had passed away. I chose number 2, thinking of my mother. Raising 8 children in poverty, his mother, who did not let anything stop her. The weight of her life at the time could not be described in words as to how hard it was. And John Wall, because he knew this, had chosen that number for his uniform. Even though John Wall has hit rock bottom because of injuries, like his mother who fought through the pain of sickness, hopefully he can fight through the struggles he is going through right now.